Good morning, good morning, good morning, folks. Welcome to today's second episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as Agape boarding school. But before we do, the usual disclaimers. Mr. Meow says hi. All right, folks. In the description box, you are going to find all the links that we have gone over thus far in regards to the Agape boarding school situation. Agape Boarding School is a Christian themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that has and pending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations. The claims and allegations having been substantiated by the independent investigations done by the Missouri Department of Social Services that takes in so called, I'm awake. That these cases allege multiple counts of sodomy, sexual assault and rape, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, and child trafficking. We're just scratching the surface. We have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another, a doctor who still lives on the premises with full access to the boys, up on multiple, substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, counts of sodomy, rape, sexual assault against the boys there. We have Eric Schmidt, an absolute failure who lied to the survivors of Agape boarding school, who is now taking his cushy seat in Washington to go be a failure there. We have an attorney general so busy kissing Trump's ass and taking over our National Guard that he can't even try to protect the students here in his own state. Except, from the so-called agenda of the LBTQ. For fuck's sake, dude, there's no agenda. They're just trying to live like the fucking rest of us. Nobody has an agenda but those people, okay? We're not talking about the stands here who have an obvious agenda. We're just talking about people who are part of that community who just try to live without being treated like shit by the Christian majority out here. There is no agenda. But don't tell Mike Pence that. Don't talk to my governor about that. He doesn't want to protect kids who are in real horrific situations. He wants to protect them from make believe scenarios that only exist in his head. Folks, please read all of those articles and please share them on all your social media. Don't forget to share and sign the change.org Shut Agape Boarding School Down petition. We also include the links, yes, even in this video here, the links to the Stop the Shocks campaign. Because let's face it, the JRC, she's been around before the troubled teen industry got its wings. They're the granddaddy of all of them. Don't think for a second they haven't had influence on the teen industry, because I guarantee you, where do you think these bastards got the blueprints from? We include Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, the templates, and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss Agape, folks, you're going to hear vivid description of and sometimes catch clips of peoples with disabilities, mental health issues, and sometimes even someone who just got the odd bad grade card who hasn't. Even my autistic smart brainiac ass got one of those once upon a time. So, if you have young children present, please use your headphones. This channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity and we talk about dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and watching this channel, headphones are advised. Also, parental supervision, folks, should go without saying. It's 12:17. I'm getting anxious because I got groceries on the way, and Tiffany can have bread now. Bread. So, if I stumble over my words or get distracted or you hear a knock on the door, folks, apologies in advance, all right? Now, let me take a sip of my disgusting concoction here, because winter. I got into herbs as a teenager, folks. They do actually work. I'm not like one of those pseudoscience weird people, but you get where I'm going with that. I like my yogi tea and I like my concoctions. Even if they do basically taste like herbal gravy. It works though. All right, let's go to where we left off last Tuesday. I know some of this we may read over. We probably went over it in the last video. I've slept within since then, folks. Please have mercy on me. I spent an entire week with back-to-back calls. Like it was Black Friday for a solid week and a half. Okay? All right. Some Missouri courts over the years have interpreted immediate or variations of that phrase, Bateman versus Reinhardt, 391 Southwest 3D 441 451. Commercial use cannot be considered immediate when taxing authority admits that such improbable for more than a year. Oh, for fuck's sake. So we're creating an excuse why we sat on our hands for a year. You really did move to cover your ass, didn't you? Didn't you? I love when legal folks like Eric Schmidt will use these legal terms and try to bend a meaning of a word so that they can cover their own ass. It's not about you. I couldn't do anything. I had to wait a year. No, you didn't. There were other means at Eric Schmidt's disposal that he could have used, like the fact that Agape calls itself incorporated. Incorporated. Let's just think on that for a minute. He could have gone for their tax exempt status. When you can't hit on the other laws, why were we not going after the money? I can tell you why. Because they are ingratiated with the more powerful, larger mega churches, the ones that put politicians in office. It's a setup, folks. But moving on, State versus Bruner, no SD 33982, 2016, WL 4130831 at 4, MOAP SD 2016, holding on that in self-defense context, immediate means instant without passage of time. At least there's fucking that. So we can understand the idea of immediate, right? Again, you sat on your hands for a fucking year. The mere possibility that an event may happen in the future does not create an immediate danger. Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? Whose side were you on, Eric? Whose side were you on? You had a doctor facing fucking prison time, living on the premises. It doesn't get more immediate than that. You had people living on the premises who are on the state sex registry. It doesn't get more immediate than that. But because they're Christian and because of their connections, they were left alone. Yeah. Makes you wonder what other kind of crimes we're going to be uncovering as we dig down this rabbit hole, doesn't it? Because I'm sure it doesn't stop with Agape. Let's move on. Factual allegations, at least you can admit that. DSS Children's Division has determined, by a preponderance of the evidence, that some current and former Agape's employees perpetuated abuse or neglect at Agape boarding school. Some of those current and former Agape employees have appealed the findings to the Child Abuse and Neglect Review Board. And folks, due to it being Missouri, gotta cover our asses if we're Christian, right? So they get to continue to abuse those kids. because they're appealing. You should be fucking removed. Period. Period. This is why I hate people. One individual Agape staff aide declined to appeal the findings by September the 6th, 2022, appellate deadline, and the findings became final on September the 7th, 2022. Once findings are final, the individual is placed on the Abuse and Neglect Central Registry as perpetrator of child abuse or neglect. On September the 7th, 2022, Agape A staff became listed on the Child Abuse Neglect Central Registry as a perpetrator of child abuse, 13 CSR 35 31 0253B. On August the 22nd, TSS obtained a roster of current Agape employees pursuant to its authority under 210-1264 RSMO. The roster included Agape Staff A. Missouri law prohibits individuals from working or being present at a residential care facility or from living on the property of such residential facility if they have substantiated findings of child abuse or neglect or appear on the Child Abuse Central Registry, except if they appeal. Let me tell you about this little loophole here predators get away with out in this state. They can be found guilty. They can have all the evidence against them in the world, but if they appeal the findings, as long as there's appeal in process, they're allowed to continue in their employment. Let me say that again. For those who've been found guilty of abuse and neglect of children in their job position, if they appeal the findings, are allowed to continue in that employment during the appeals process. Tell me that's not batshit insane. They bent over backwards to protect these bastards. Over backwards. It's like JRC all over again. Ugh. This is why many of us have suggested alternative means to go after these bastards, such as their tax-exempt status. Because they're running more like a business instead of a religion. Matter of fact, the majority of the mega churches out here do. They run more like big business than they do churches. But I won't get into that argument right now. I get harassed enough. But they could have gone after the money. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. They didn't. They sat on their hands for a year. They create laws to protect these bastards. I don't care who you are. If you've been under investigation and found guilty, whether you're appealing or not, you should be removed from having contact with fucking children. Period. 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 But this state is known to bend over backwards to protect abusers. Not just in this setting, but in home settings too. We'll get into that maybe another day. Basically, what we just read is a couple of things. This is what we're doing now. This is why we sat on our hands for a year, and immediate doesn't actually mean immediate. I feel like I'm dealing with AH's testimony where she said that pledged and donate are the same thing. The fuck? Immediate means now. Donates means you donated. I can't deal with people and their alternative realities. They want to mince words and tell me, well, I feel, nobody gives a fuck how you feel what it means. It means what it means, regardless of how you feel it should be defined. It is what it is. I can't handle the state of law and the way people do their bullshit these days. I really can't. My alternative reality is immediately doesn't actually mean immediate in this circumstance. Shut the fuck up. Immediate means now. Immediate means now. It doesn't mean a year from now. It doesn't mean 5 minutes from now. It means now. Fuck. It means now. Immediate doesn't mean at a later point when I indicate that's when it means what it means. No, it means now, Eric. It means now. It means it should have been immediate a goddamn year ago when you were first given the authority to close this place the fuck down. Instead, you sat on your hands and then kicked the can down the road until the fucking campaign was over. But this is the world we're dealing with, folks. We're dealing with a world where politicians will do more to cover their ass and use their talking points to appease the churches so that they'll keep voting for their asses and push their evangelical bullshit. They would rather take terms and give them alternate reality meanings to cover their own ass than to do the job they were hired to fucking do. They'd rather appease these conglomerate than confront them. Yeah. So what do we, the lay people, as poor broke ass bitches like me, what do we do in these situations? We expose them. We continue to put the facts out there regardless of whatever stupid bullshit they're trying to do. We haunt people like my governor and Eric Schmidt like we're worse than the ghost of Christmas motherfucking past. Every time they make a statement, we remind them. Every time they do a public meeting, we remind them. Every time they do a townhouse, we're there to remind them. We are there at every given opportunity in their halls, talking to the other senators of our state. We are talking to the media. We are talking to whoever the hell we have to get a hold of. We never let them forget their failure to protect these kids and get justice for the survivors of this hellhole. We make sure to put as many eyes on this situation and expose their failures as we humanly can. We never let them forget the kids of Agape boarding school. We never let them forget the girls of Circle of Hope. We never let them forget the kids stuck in similar hellholes throughout this entire state. We will remind people on the many avenues they could have used to attack these schools to get these kids the hell out. We never let them forget. We'll never let them forget the fact that they could have attacked on the grounds of the fact that they remain unlicensed as a school. We keep hammering. We haunt their steps. We invade every single political bullshit talking point maneuver that they try to do and remind them of who they left behind and who they failed and the consequences that is on the backs of those kids still stuck there because of their failures. That's what we do. We never let a single Missouri senator sleep until every last child is the fuck out of there. I'm going to close on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.